Man, so excited because it is game week. The guys yesterday coming in to the facility, this is their off day, so we got to practice in yesterday. And, man, you could tell the difference of just knowing we're going into game week. I'm really excited about playing Wyoming. I've never been to Wyoming, so I'm excited to go there. It's going to be great weather. I know they have an incredible fan base, and so expecting a packed stadium. Playing one of the best coaches in the nation. I'm a football geek, and whenever you're playing a coach that's won three national titles, he's I believe had 4 national Coaches of the Year awards. He's done nothing but win everywhere he's gone. 5 out of the last 7 years he's been in bowl games, and he is a culture builder. He hangs his hat on tough teams, and I absolutely love that because that's who I think we are. And so you get a chance to battle a really physical team and find out exactly where we are physically and what kind of team we have. And then I get to see a really good friend of mine, Oscar Giles, our defensive line coach. He recruited Cedar Hill for a long time whenever he was at the University of Texas, and he's one of my favorite dudes. So I'm excited to see him on Saturday. And you could tell because the best part of what they're doing right now, their D-line, is a really, really physical group, and they kind of take on Coach's mentality, Coach Giles' mentality. So really excited to play those guys. I mean, whenever you talk about first games and being on the road, something that we've got to learn from. We finished the season, at Iowa State winning, and then we went on the road in the bowl game, but we weren't great on the road last year. And so it gives this team a chance to really learn from last year and get ready to go this year. But playing a quality opponent, you get to find out about yourself. And so we can't wait to get there. Actually going out a day early, so we can't wait to get to Wyoming. So with that, I'll open up for any questions.
Start out 4th row with Jared.
Coach, you have any injury updates for us?
Man, I'm glad you asked that because I had it on my sheet and I didn't look at the end. The 2 guys that we know we will not have is Corey Aiken. Doing great rehab. Feel good. He's been moving his arm, been in the training room doing more mobility stuff with his arm. And then Charlie Robinson with his ankle. Everybody else, this is probably as healthy as we've been since I've been here, whenever we've had pads on. And so getting everybody back that either had ankles or calves or anything like that, they've been practicing. So we'll know this week. We expect to get Nehemiah back this week and have him ready to go. I mean, he's on my travel roster, so I'm expecting him. The reports from the doctors have been good, so we're expecting him to play. So as healthy as we've been, and especially it's good to see. It says a lot about our strength staff and our nutrition staff because we've had a really physical camp, and so excited about that.
I know you bring back a lot of veterans in terms of starters, but how do you feel about the depth in the secondary?
I feel great about as far as their ability to go play in games, but we're also going to get to see some young guys go play in their first college game. I mean, I'm expecting B.J. Jordan to play. I'm expecting Jordan Sanford to play. I'm expecting Chapman Lewis to play. Right now, there's a really good chance might be just on special teams, but Marcus Ramon Edwards, another one of the young guys, he keeps getting better every single week. We track everything. Y'all know us. We're a numbers-based organization. So, his practice numbers have been off the charts. And so I'm excited. I mean, the good thing is the 3 main guys, they came in mid-year. So it's not like, yes, they're freshmen to be their first college game experience, but they've been going against one of the best offenses I think there is, and seeing Tyler Shuck every day and seeing Baron Morton. And so I think they'll be ready to go. I mean, they'll be nervous, but, that's what life's all about, man. That's the exciting part of this game is, getting to see young guys really perform, at a high level, and we're expecting a lot of good things from them.
Coach, kind of on that same vein, is there any way that we're going to see A.J. McCarty this season for you guys?
Say again?
A.J. McCarty.
A.J., we'll see. I'm glad you asked that. Thanks for asking that. We should know tomorrow, exactly where we're at. Anything else that we've gotten back, we've gotten everybody cleared, but AJ, we should know tomorrow. And if we get good news tomorrow, then, he'll be going to Wyoming with us. The great thing about him, if he does, is he can play corner, he can play free safety, he can play the star position. And so that adds a lot of depth with a guy that's played football, at this level. And so we'll find out. We should find out tomorrow.
And you released the depth chart last night. Big thing that stood out to me was an or at the corner position between Lux and Malik Dunlap.
Yeah.
Just what does that do for Lux, and how did he earn that?
It probably should say like Rashad, Malik, and Lux, and put or, because I don't care who's out there between those three guys. I mean, Jalen Peoples has had a really good camp, and so I feel really, really good about him as that being our 4 deep. But we really don't. Like, whenever it comes to those three, whoever's out there, whoever Marcel, somebody's got to start, But I would say those 3 corners are going to play as much when you get to the end of the game and at the end of the year. I bet they have very similar snap counts because, one, you're talking about a corner before he got hurt last year was one of the highest graded corners in the nation, Pro Football Focus-wise with Lux. And, Malik at different times early in camp was banged up. He had an ankle sprain, and, he's getting fully back and, has looked really good and is going to have a great week of practice. But with those 3 guys, I mean, I know somebody's got to start, but it's like, I don't care who's out there with those 3. I feel really, really comfortable with those 3 guys out on the field.
I know that it's been talked about with you guys in the offseason, but watching the first week of college football this weekend, I noticed a lot less plays and more tempo in the new rules without the clock stopping on first down. How are you prepared to adjust for that this week?
Well, it's actually 50-50. So, and then you've got to take into account, we actually did this. I mean, before you leave, I can give you the exact numbers. Because I asked my personnel group to do that. But if you look at like La Tech averaged 74 plays last year, and they ran 84 plays this year. And so you can say, well, Notre Dame was down. Yeah, but they played Navy. And so you're going to be down playing Navy. And so really, if you look, the numbers did not change the way I think people think they would. Now, it's going to be interesting because now you're going to have a full slate of games, and we'll do that study every single week. But we're planning on going fast. That's who we are, and we don't necessarily think, I mean, if it's 7 plays maybe, but it might be even less, just because looking at the numbers over this last week, it really shows, and you have to take into account who you were playing and where you are in the game. But I think we had 10 games that we did that we felt like were games to look at, and it was really half of them had more numbers and half of them had less numbers. Like Vanderbilt, I think they had like 2 less plays than what their average was last year. And so it's going to be interesting, really, because at the end of the deal, it's really how fast they get the marker there, because we're going to go. If we hit that first down, or if we have a play that's going to be a big play, or we think we need a tempo, if they get that marker set, then we're going. So it's really up to the officials how fast they can get in their positions, because they don't have to have the chains ready. They just have the marker set for the down and distance, so wherever that first down is, we're rolling.
Ariel in the back and Sean.
Coach, speaking on the depth chart too, you guys released it yesterday. With the offensive line, with those guys, are they finally in the right positions? And just curious on now in their right positions, do you feel like what the growth from them over the fall camp and the scrimmages, do you feel like everyone's in place now?
I do. I mean, God, I can't wait. I can't wait till Saturday for a lot of reasons. We're playing a really good defensive line. I mean, this defensive line is, if you look, they were like 21st in the country in sacks last year. They've got some guys. They're number 94, man. He is a ball player. And so they're really going to challenge us. That's the strength of their team. I've challenged our D-line. Can we play as hard as their D-line, effort-wise? But I'm excited to see our guys. We've got 3 old guys. It's great to see Rusty take over that center position so Dennis can play guard in his more natural position. Switching Caleb and Monroe, they feel more at home where they're at. I mean, you could just tell in their stances they're more comfortable. And so, and I'm excited. I don't want to put too much pressure on the kid because, you know, he had a rough year last year with Caleb. But you're talking about a guy that, like, his camp right now versus the way he played last year is like night and day. So I'm expecting a lot from him. But I think that's the biggest improvement. I mean, there's some really great stories coming out of camp. Mason Tharp's a great story. Loic and J.J. Sparkman are great stories. You know, you flip over the defensive side of the ball, we felt like we were maybe 4 deep at the defensive tackle last year, maybe. And we're 6 deep now, and so it's totally different in the trenches. And so we feel really good about the offensive line. And then what's really great about that is you turn around and the experience behind it. You know, Ty Buchanan started against TCU. Matt Keeler started against West Virginia, and I think he started against TCU, and, you know, 3 or 4 starts. You know, Landon Peterson started 4 or 5 games for us last year. Jacoby Jacobs started 8 games for us last year. Those are your guys that, you know, you can put in and you feel really good about it. So last year I had 2 guys that started college football games for us, and now we have 9 of the 10 that have started college football games. And so I know Hamby feels a lot better, and Tyler and Barron and Taj and Cameron, those guys feel a lot better too.
And with special teams too, when you and Coach Perry were deciding the depth chart for that, was there any positions where you guys were like, oh man, we can go with this guy but also go with this guy and be a little interchangeable?
You know, we felt like the guys really stepped up and won the job. I mean, he's the backup punter, but Brooks has really grown, so we feel good there. But, you know, Gino won. I mean, Reese put a lot of pressure on him, but Gino won, you know, the field goal, extra point field goal position. And then Reese has been incredible as far as kicking the ball, our kickoffs. And so we feel good about that. We're actually percentage-wise a little bit higher than we were coming out of camp last year, and that's with, you know, 2 really good kickers with Gino and Trey Wolf. But Gino, you know, going into this year, he kind of had a chip on his shoulder. He wanted to prove that he could be the guy, and he definitely has. So feel good about special teams, feel good about the returners. You know, that's the thing, like the return game, if you have Jordan back there, he's going to do a great job. If you have Dre McCray back there, you're probably going to see both of them on Saturday because we want both of them to get some, you know, shots at returning it. But we feel good about both of those guys.
Coach, what do you consider the strength of this team and what you still want to see improve before you hit the field versus Wyoming?
You know, I think we flip a little bit. Last year coming out of camp, I thought that our defense was ahead of our offense. I think right now we're a little bit ahead offensively. That goes with having 2 quarterbacks that we have that can go out there, and Tyler has had a great camp. I mean, he's such a pro. You have so many vets. I mean, I think there's like 22,000 plus snaps on the offensive side of the ball in college football. And so when you're looking at that, it's a very experienced group. What I really want to see on both sides of the ball, one, I want to see us be more explosive on offense. We did a great job controlling the ball, catching the ball, and, you know, we had to be on 8, 10, 12-play drives. It'd be nice to have some of those shorter drives, you know, to have more explosive plays. And then on the other side of the ball, you know, really challenge the defense to cut the explosive plays down. You know, I love playing great in the red zone, but we don't have to let them get there, you know. And so cutting down the explosive plays are going to be really big. We had too many, you know, it's year 1, so expected a little bit of busting some coverages and stuff like that. But we've got to be able to cut down on the explosive plays on the defensive side of the ball.
And you've got 4 games to play with some of these players with, you know, before red shirts can be yanked. Who's one of the players that you think has the potential of making an impact and may lose that red shirt this year?
Well, you know, I'd probably start with B.J. Jordan, just from the standpoint, I mean, he's how tall he is, 6 foot plus, and he's right now somewhere between 212 and 215 pounds. And so I definitely think physically he can do it. He's in a really good position star-wise. So I would probably, you know, off the top of my head say him. As far as it will be hard for him to redshirt. the O-line, it's hard to play college football, so we expect a redshirt or offensive lineman. The guy that's probably closest, it's hard to play offensive lineman 4 games and redshirt or period at this level. Caden Carr is probably the closest to be able to get into some games. Expecting him to travel to Wyoming this week, so he's a guy. But I see him redshirting. The other guys, I'm going to do my best to try to redshirt those guys. I think BJ's the main one he's going to be hard to redshirt, especially if you're sitting there and let's say AJ McCarty, if they rule him ineligible, then it'll be harder to redshirt BJ. You want to redshirt every one of them. It's hard to play college football at the level that we want them to play at and what they're expecting to play at, being that young. We do feel like we have a lot of freshmen that we can get in 4 games to help us win. TJ West is having a really good camp, and he can fly. Challenging him to just continue to grow in his playbook. Same way with Kelby. He's had a really good camp. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Jordan and Chapman are the 2 that, I see them playing 4 games for sure.
Coach, I assume since you guys are going early, there's something to the altitude thing. What went into the process of wanting to get up there early, and how much do you think that truly does affect a football team?
Well, I'm glad we're in Lubbock, Texas, because, it's a little bit different. We're in Houston going to Wyoming. Now there's a huge difference. It was kind of a mixture because we're playing BYU, and you're, again, playing at a different altitude. We wanted to see if it helped us, so we're going to do Fast Friday, which is our practice. We're going to do it there at a high school, and so I let them get used to it. My biggest thing with going early, too, was I want them to understand how important this game is. This is an extremely important game to us. And, whoever we have after this, we don't care. We know who we have this week. And so anytime you can do something a little bit different, I think it gets the guys' attention. We'll present Wyoming to them tomorrow from my perspective at our team meeting in the morning. But this is a really good football team that's used to winning, used to playing in bowl games. And so the 2 things for me is I wanted it to be a little bit different to get their attention and keep their attention on Wyoming. And then 2, to get used to the altitude. And so I think it's going to be good. We'll see. I'm not one of those guys, again, we're going to talk about it tomorrow. I knew it was going to be cold in Iowa, so we talked about it. And guess what? We're playing at the highest altitude there is in college football. And so you can't hide from it. It's going to feel a little bit different at first. And so why not talk about it? Because when they ask me about it, at least I can say I told you, get your mind right. We feel great. Our nutrition staff and our strength staff's done, a lot of different stuff going in, starting last week, going into this week of different things as far as getting ready for the altitude. We do have 2 strength guys that were on Wyoming strength staff a couple of years ago. And so they're really, I think dialed into some of the things that can help us. We're taking a few more guys. We're taking 80 players. Usually, we probably would take somewhere between 70 to 73. In Big 12 play, you can only take 70. And so we're planning on, playing a lot of guys. But we play a lot of guys anyway, especially on defense. And so I think you put all that together, when we kick the ball off, we'll definitely be ready to play.
Statement, but what concerns you about this team? I'm guessing Coach Bull is a very disciplined guy.
Yes.
Is that part of it? He has a track record of winning against teams that maybe a lot of people didn't think he was going to beat as well.
Well, yeah, 1991, the last time Tech went in, we were 17-point favorites. We got beat 21-17. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. I don't think that team thought that, they were going to go in there and get beat. And so he's a great coach, and I respect him. I can't say that enough. I know who he is, and then guys that coached under him. You're talking about Chris Kleiman, who's the Big 12 champ, and you see what K-State is, and I guarantee you Wyoming's going to be a lot like that. They're not going to beat themselves. One thing that we've talked about a lot, and we said it again yesterday, is eliminate bad football. And the one thing about watching games on Saturday, you know, it's not like there was bad football saying that there was bad teams. There were bad football like changing personnel and getting delay of games and stuff like that. And so Wyoming's not going to beat themselves. We've got to make sure that we do the same, you know, that we're going out and we're taking care of what we need to take care of. And that's the challenge as coaches of making sure that, you know, it's like fireworks going off on the sideline. If we're changing personnel on offense or defense, everybody hears it. It's echoing, making sure we're getting the play in on time, when we can sub, how we can sub, because, you know, bad football is what gets you beat, and we're going to try to eliminate as much as we can. I promise you they will. You know, that's one thing. They're going to be really disciplined. They're going to be exactly where they are. They're going to be really tough. They got a veteran quarterback, and so really good tight end. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Finish with Don up front.
Joey, who are the couple of strength staffers that you mentioned that worked at Wyoming previously?
Well, the guy that was on full time is Aaron Hall, and so Josh was on there, but Aaron Hall was the guy that was full time. Lance, our head strength coach, actually considers their head strength coach as one of his mentors. I believe they were at LSU together, and so, you know, it's kind of two teams that believe in a lot of the same thing. I mean, you know, I talk about being fast and speed and everything like that. We are a really fast team, but at the end of the day, I want to be a tough team. You know, I want to be a real physical team. That's what wins games. You know, against good teams, it's what wins games late in the season when you're a really tough physical team. So that's going to be a good challenge. But Doc, we call him Doc. Doc's, you know, excited about going back to Wyoming.
On A.J. McCarty, how much work has he gotten with, say, ones and twos, given that you don't know whether he can play or not?
None with the ones, a lot with the twos. You know, he went with Malik being banged up week 2 of camp. He played a lot of corner, and so he's been with the twos. This last week he was with our 2s and 3s at free safety, and so that's we'll see. You know, the good thing is he's played a lot of football, and you know, feel good. You know, week 1, if we get him, is more special teams and probably depth than anything, and then really getting him geared up after that.
And guys like that you kind of mentioned, like Nehemiah, Malik, Tyreek Matthews, guys that have just, I guess, been down a significant amount of time during camp. How much work have they gotten with, say, with the normal 1s and 2s? Yeah,
so last week, Tyreek was back all week, you know, and so he'll have 2 weeks with the 2s. Malik was back all week, so he got 1s and 2s last week. So he'll get, you know, all week 1s and 2s. You know, Nehemiah's the one that's had the least amount, but I mean, he's a guy. I mean, you don't want anything ever to happen to guys, but guys that are really have high football IQs that can really lock in. I mean, he knows what's going on. It'd be a deal that we probably won't play him as much just because of conditioning and everything, but we definitely want to try to get him in and get him going. He wants to, man. He's chomping at the bits. You know, I mean, y'all all know Nehemiah being a local Lubbock kid. I mean, the dude is tough as nails and wants to play football. He loves football, and so I think we'll be able to get him going. But that's another position, man. You know, like Xavier White has had a phenomenal camp. And he's been doing a lot of stuff that Nehemiah was doing in the spring, so we feel good about that.
You kind of touched on it a little bit on Saturday night, but how much do you kind of like, and I remember you said last year at the Texas Bowl that you thought Lane Kiffin, with all the stuff he says, is good for college football. How much do you kind of like the back and forth with, in this case, Texas?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think it's good for college football. I mean, you know, it's it's one of those deals with us, you know. We want to definitely stay on the schedule and keep them on the schedule. And so I'm one of those guys. I mean, we can alternate. I'm ready to get A&M on the schedule, and I mean, y'all got to realize, y'all do. Y'all realize this because talking to one Alabama person back there and probably a bunch of Texans, but I mean, I grew up in the Southwest Conference days to where Texas Tech and A&M played every single year, and I don't know. I heard a story that R.C. Slocum didn't like coming to Lubbock because of the altitude. And I don't know if that's true or not, but Jonathan Boutros says it's true. And so I think it's great for college football. It's great for the state that we live in. And so I think the little bit of the back and forth is good because I respect it's not saying anything against that football team or Sark because I respect that football team and I respect him. I mean, y'all remember last year, and I'll say it again, I think he's one of the best offensive minds in the country, and they've got a really good offensive football team. But I want to play him. I want to play him every year. I think it's good for recruiting. I think it's good for the state. I know that there'll be a sellout crowd when we go to Austin there, and there was a sellout crowd whenever we played here, so I think it's good for football. I think it's good for our universities.
One other player question. Anything wrong with Isaac Smith? What's his status?
Should be good to go, man. Should be good to go. I mean, he's had a really good camp. I'm a little different on the oars than some of the people before maybe me. Or just means I don't really care who's out there. Like, it really does. Like, when you read in the or to any of our depth charts, just read that Coach McGuire does not care who's out there. So if Mason Tharp's out there, awesome. If Baylor Cupp's out there, awesome. Like, so those ors really doesn't have anything to do with, hey, this guy's been ahead of this guy or anything like that. It's just, number one, I want them to get the respect to being on the depth chart because I think that's a big deal to players. And then two, they're equal in my eyes of who's going to go out there. And so a lot of it, if you got, I think we had Bryce or, Isaac. It's nothing that Isaac hasn't done well or anything like that. They're both. I really don't care who's out there. So it's a good question.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Hey, it's game week. It's game week. It's good to see y'all.
Coach, what challenges does Wyoming present to you guys?
Well, I think they're a really well-coached football team with some veteran players coming back. You've got a quarterback that's started for a year at Wyoming, transferred in, played a lot of games over at Utah State. So he's a guy that's seen a lot of different things. He's an athletic quarterback. He can hurt you in the run game and pass game. They've got veteran up front, offensive line, big guys that, as I mentioned before, very, very well coached. They know their scheme. Coach Bowl and the offensive staff, they know how to win football games, and they're going to run the ball first and then play action and try to take their shots where they can. And if you don't have your eyes in the right place, if you're not setting great edges, if you're not fitting your gaps, they're going to take advantage of it.
A year in, what have you seen from first game to this year? What's the difference? What's the advantage that you see of this team?
Well, we should know our scheme much better. We've got a lot of guys that have played a lot of football coming back. Coaches challenged us. Our biggest issue last year was we gave up far too many explosive plays, and the vast majority of those were because of busts. Our eyes weren't in the right place. We've gone through a season of the same calls or similar calls, and hopefully seeing enough reps of things that can put you in run pass conflicts. Where should my eyes be? Where should my fit be? Anticipating those things, so we should play faster.
Coach, with the offensive line for this year getting better, how has that pushed the defensive line and made them better going into this week?
Well, I'll tell you, it's really helped us. I like our front, four in particular. We've got a lot of veteran guys there, and we've got some real good depth at the edge. A year ago, and part of that was Tyree, but a year ago, we didn't have that experience in the offensive line. And, I thought most times when we would go against our offense, we had an advantage there. This past spring and this fall camp, it was very much back and forth. And I think we've improved and been more efficient and played more explosively. Our offense has matched it, and it's made us get that much better. So it's been a real good competitive situation. We talk about all the time, iron sharpening iron. And our players took it to heart, and we got better.
You're playing a run-heavy team like Wyoming. How does having this depth that you guys have in the front four help you guys in the first game?
Well, I think we can, have guys stay fresh. One of the things that strikes you as you watch the tape of Wyoming is they play extremely hard. We take a lot of pride in playing extremely hard. I think Coach probably mentioned a year ago, though, we didn't feel we had the quality of depth that we could take Jay Boog and Tony out all the time, and they played too many snaps a year ago. This year, we've got twos that we feel that could challenge for ones, and we've got some threes that could challenge as well. So we've got, the ability to roll guys, stay fresh, which you're going to need to, because like I said, they've got a big offensive line. They're very, very efficient in their run game. They've seen, a bunch of different schemes and know how to block it, and they're going to come off the ball and try to knock you off the ball.
What's your scout on the two running backs that they have? I know that they're dealing with an injury for their top guy at this point.
Well, one was a returner from a year ago. Little smaller in stature, really good feet, quickness, number 7. But they've got a junior college transfer that just got there in the summer. Now, his tape, we had to go back to Saddleback Junior College to see him. He's a little bit thicker guy, good feet. They're going to get guys, and if he won the job, he's going to be a guy that they like. So, we don't have a whole lot of him, watching him in the Wyoming scheme, but I'm sure he's going to be a back that is going to be patient on the zone running scheme that they run, and then be able to put his foot in the ground and get north and get yards.
Coach, playing against a Wyoming team that likes to run the ball, are you going to expect your star safeties to be really involved in the box, helping with the run game?
I mean, it depends on the scheme that we call. This is a team that obviously runs first. They're about 2/3 of the time on what we call normal down and distance situations, running the football. But what they do a really nice job is, combining that with their play action pass. And if you just think you're going to stop the run and your safety start looking in the backfield and not at their keys, that's where explosives come up. So, yes, our safeties have to get involved depending on, our scheme calls. But they've got to do a really good job of reading their keys, and Wyoming does a nice job of disguising it.
Coach, speaking on those twos that you said competing for ones, Quincy Lidday Jr. is one of those guys. What kind of snaps are you expecting for him against Wyoming?
Well, each game we go into, we expect that second group to play, anywhere from 20 to 40 snaps. Now, the type of game plan that Wyoming typically plays, they're going to huddle. They're going to be very deliberate in their tempo, as opposed to what we normally see in the Big 12 and what our offense does. At least that's been their MO going in. We're going to assume that they're going to do what we've seen. They're going to snap the ball usually with under 10 seconds on the clock. They're going to huddle, line up, shift, trade, motion, and all that stuff takes time. So the number of plays, I think they only average somewhere between 50 and 60 plays a game on offense, where we're closer to 80. But basically, we're looking at probably 60% of the reps with Tony and Boog, ideally, and then the 40%, split between our 2s and 3s.
Last time I spoke to Quincy, he said he was a little bit nervous, his first year as a Red Raider. How's he feeling coming into this game?
I hope everybody's a little bit nervous, and not nervous, just anxious to play against somebody else in a different colored jersey. We've had a really physical, competitive camp. We're ready to hit someone different. And if you don't have those butterflies, if it's not important to you, if you're not excited to play, you probably ought to be playing a different sport or not playing at all. So I want our guys to be excited. I want us to, channel that energy, because on defense you have to play with high energy. You got to chase that football and just play at a higher level than your opponent does. And the challenge for our guys is the guys we're playing against, they play extremely hard.
Coach.
Hey, Coach, we talk and write about your scheme from what we see in some interviews and stuff, but just going into the season, can you describe what your scheme is like basically for fans?
We call it multiple. A lot of it's based on personnel, and the scheme we're going to get from Wyoming is going to dictate a little bit the personnel we're going to play. We see a lot more bigger personnel groupings from Wyoming than we normally would in the majority of the Big 12. Against that we're going to be both in even and odd fronts. We'll likely play with 4 outside linebackers when they get into what we call 12 or 13 personnel, the 1 back, 2 or 3 tight end looks. And then when they bring an extra receiver on the field, we'll match that with a star and take one of our outside linebackers out and bring in a safety hybrid guy, CJ and BJ.
About the job Josiah has done at the switch from outside to inside?
I've been impressed. It took him a little bit since he played the entire season as an edge guy. But it was interesting. He came up to me, after the season last year and, said, "Hey, Coach, I used to play inside linebacker." And I think he looked at the depth chart and realized with Kosai and Krishan gone that there's an obvious need there, especially for someone who's played football. We just didn't have a lot of experience, depth at that position. And when we moved him there, it was a little bit, rusty, you can tell, but he really made strides during fall camp. He works extremely hard at it, and been really pleased with his progress.
Anything more for Coach DeRuiter before we let him go?
Of course, Don's got one. Not going to let me go.
I was going to ask you about Bryce Ramirez. Of course, Coach, all you got choked up when we asked him during camp about Bryce's comeback. What do you think? What did you think that night about Bryce's football future, and what do you think now, seeing that he is a part of your too deep again already?
That night, seeing the injury, I was concerned he'd walk again. Or at least walk normally. There was a concern whether he'd be able to keep his lower leg. It was that, traumatic of an injury. But he got excellent medical care. Came back here about a week later, and then obviously was with our trainers and our rehab crew here, and they did phenomenal work with him on their end. And on his end, he was not going to be denied. And, you talk about... Coach, all you get emotional. I get emotional thinking about him, because if there's one guy on our team that you had to say, which guy's the brand, it's probably Bryce Ramirez. I mean, he just embodies everything we want to do, who we're about, and it's been really impressive to see him come back, the work he's put in to get to where he is today, and I'm really excited that he's going to get close to where he was a year ago. He told me he was about 90% the other day. And I know come Saturday with the adrenaline, his 90% is going to be over 100%. So he'll play like a Red Raider.
And from a explosiveness standpoint, obviously y'all liked a year ago at this time, what he looked like as a pass rusher and his ability coming off the edge. From what you can tell, what is Bryce's explosiveness now? Where is it compared to where it was pre-injury?
Yeah, I think a little bit. He still has some residual swelling, and so he's probably about 90% where he was. But the thing that you know about Bryce is he is going to go as hard as he can possibly go, and so his 90% is pretty darn good. We're going to work hard to get him to that 100%. And like I said, when Dr. Game gets here and that adrenaline starts pumping, I imagine he's going to be really close to that 100%. Because when he does, he can really be explosive off the edge to get to an edge. And then he's so strong with his hands that he can turn the corner and get to the quarterback. And the other thing about him, he's an extremely intelligent football player. So he'll play in a couple different positions and in different packages for us. Plays just as well in coverage and in space as he does rushing the passer. All right, guys.
We'll start with Justin on your right.
Coach, what have you seen from the Wyoming defensive scheme? Seems like they run quite a bit of nickel and mix in some stuff with the linebackers. Just what have you seen from your perspective?
Yeah, nickel-based defense, 4 down, a little bit more 1 high than 2 high. Again, Coach Bowles a defensive-minded head coach, and I think they kind of hang their hat on stopping the run first and foremost. And again, they do a really good job. I think the strength of their defense is in the box, mainly the defensive front. So yeah, they do a really good job, and they got a lot of experience back, a lot of snaps played on defense coming back this year.
I asked Coach McGuire about this, but what are your thoughts on the new rule after seeing it for a couple games this weekend, with the clock not stopping on first down? How are you prepared for that, and just how does that change things for you?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to really change much for us. We're going to kind of do what we do. We feel like we can use our tempo to our advantage. We're going to tempo and try to play as fast as we can at times, and again, just picking your spots for those moments. Understanding the scenario of down and distance where we're at on the field, and kind of attacking those scenarios. Coach McGuire came first thing to me Sunday and said, hey, it was kind of 50-50 split between those games that were this weekend on who averaged more, who didn't. And again, I think you're going to see that depend on who you play. Against an offense like Wyoming's, this may be a game where we have a little bit less snaps than we averaged last season, for example. But I think that'll kind of just be hit or miss each week.
We'll go next to Sean, followed by Ariel.
Coach, what do you consider the strength of the offense, and what do you still feel like you need to work on before game one?
Yeah, I think number one, and it's changed from last year, but I think just up front, we're just such a different team up front this year. And I know it seems like it's a broken record. We've talked about it. We've hit on it a lot. But just the experience of those guys this year compared to last, and the continuity they have, and the adhesiveness that they've been able to have together over spring and fall camp, we feel really good about that. And then just cleaning up some of the small mental mistakes a little bit before game one. You want to go out there and be able to have a really clean game. Limit the penalties, especially like the pre-snap penalties, false starts, or illegal formations. Some of those things, get those cleaned up before game one.
Who are some of the younger players that we talked with Coach McGuire about asking some of the players that might make an impact before you redshirt them? Who are some of the players on the offense that we might be seeing?
Yeah, we'll see. I think if you really look across the board at all those freshmen, we'd like to redshirt those guys if we can. But the young receivers have all flashed a lot this camp. Jake Strong's had a really good camp. Our young offensive linemen, I think, are going to be some people we all are really fired up for in a couple years. But again, especially at that position, I think it's really tough to play those guys as true freshmen. I'd say if anybody was ready to go, it'd be probably Caden Carr in that room. He's probably the most prepared, just natural build and strength that he has. But we'll kind of hopefully get those guys in those 4 games at least, and you never know how the season goes. You hope you don't have to play those guys late in the year due to injuries or some of those things. But if those things happen, I feel good about where those guys are at.
Which going off of the offensive line too, with them, finally getting the pieces of the puzzle together. With the tight ends now, what are you expecting out of them heading into this game, and how much more can we see them involved with the offense?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that's going to vary week to week. Again, they're going to play a lot of man coverage. So that's going to get us in some good scenarios with our tight ends and some one-on-one scenarios, maybe against a nickel that we can outsize and give us an advantage in some length. But again, I'm never just going to force the ball into a spot that I don't think it needs to be forced in. We're a progression-based offense, so we start with read one and we make our way through and we try to hit the open player. But again, I'm very proud of those guys and those 4. I feel like we've kind of got a 4-headed monster in that room that all those guys can come in and make a big impact for us when we need them.
Coach McGuire said earlier that Mason Tharp is one of the big stories coming out of camp. To you, why is he a big story, and how have you seen him really just take on this fall camp getting ready to this game?
Yeah, he's gone through a lot of adversity with some injuries and some of those things, and you look at him now, and he's over 270 pounds. He's never looked this good. He's never felt this good. He's made some huge plays for us this camp. Some stuff that we were, hoping for from him, and his confidence is just through the roof. He's really doing a really good job in the run game as well. Being 6'9", you're kind of out-leveraged naturally, but he's done a phenomenal job of playing with great pad level and being really physical in the run game. And again, you talk about the pass game, he's a mismatch because he's so tall and long, and it's not really, I told the quarterbacks the other day, I said, hey, when you throw him the ball, it's not a 50-50 ball. It's more of a 75-25 ball. Just put it up where he can go get it, no one else can. So really excited about him and hopeful for him to have a big year.
Coach, it says it's plain and simple right in this media guide right here. It's Brooks' time at running back. What are some of your expectations for him heading into game 1, and how's he feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, he's feeling really good. I think if you ask him, his body feels the best that it's ever has. He's really where he needs to be body weight wise to still be able to hold up in pass pro, hit the tight holes whenever he needs to in the 3rd and 4th and short yardage, but also be able to use his speed now too. So definitely fired up about him. He's had another unbelievable camp. I mean, he can do it all. I mean, you talk about pass pro, running the football. He's smart. He knows all the receiver routes and signals and all those things. So you're going to see him be using a lot of facets. I'm going to move him around, line him up at receiver some, motion him out, let him run some routes. Really fired up about him. Again, I can't speak highly enough on who he is as a human being as well as a football player. He checks all the boxes, man. Excited for him.
There's a lot of expectation around this team this year, but more specifically Tyler. How's he feeling? Is the pressure getting to him, or is he ready to just get into this season?
No, man, I don't think the pressure's got to him. I mean, he's another one. We were talking about Mason and some adversity. I mean, Tyler's been through a lot, man. And that stems back to even before his playing days, some stuff that he, with his mom and some of those things that she battled cancer and some of those things. Some of the things he's went through, I think he's prepared him for this moment. And he's just fired up, man. He's ready to play, and he's ready to put together a full year to show everybody what he can really do. And again, I'm fired up for him. Again, I've seen it now for going on 2 years now, exactly who he is and what he can do. And it's good to, like I said, to have those offensive linemen here to help keep him off his back, we hope.
Coach, what's the ceiling for a couple of veteran receivers in like Bradley and Miles Price?
Yeah, I mean, those guys could have huge years. Again, it's kind of cool. We've going through this year and this camp, going through some scrimmages and stuff, just the different looks our defense gives us. They do such a good job of mixing stuff up. Each practice, it's kind of like a different person who's getting the ball. Like, hey, maybe, practice 1, it was the slots that got a lot of the targets based on what they're doing defensively. And then practice 2, it was those outside guys who are getting a lot of the targets. And so it's been really fun, first off, having Coach Juice here. He played in this offense. He's a tremendous football coach and even better guy. I love having him in my ear, and he does a great job of helping me out on a daily basis too. So, but what I love about those guys, there's no selfishness in that room. I mean, they understand, coming into certain games that, hey, they may press me in the slot and they're going to give up the gift outside to these outside guys. So, those outside guys may have 10 to 15 catches that game. The slots may have 2 or 3, just depending on kind of what the defense has given us. And that's kind of the beauty of this offense, but also the beauty of that room and how great those guys are and the unselfishness. So, I mean, again, I think the ceiling for all those guys, I mean, you talk about another veteran group that we've got a lot of guys with a lot of experience. And so excited to see those guys this year, and hopefully we start out strong this Saturday.
You mentioned freshman quarterback Jake Strong has looked good. Can you just describe what you've seen for him and what type of quarterback he is?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you're a freshman coming into a system that I put a lot on the quarterback, so there's definitely some growing pains, but he's super sharp, man, and that's one thing that I love from about him from the jump and in the recruiting process is he loves football. He's a football junkie. He sits in there in their meeting room and he watches film on his own a lot, and he's just, you know, clearly the speed of the game and some of those things, he'll have to you know, get that under his belt and help calm him down sometimes in the pocket. I think sometimes, you know, when you have some big all Power 5 defensive linemen coming at you in a rush, he's not used to that at times, but he's done a really good job. And again, he's very accurate with the football, good arm, and again, I think the number one thing that he's shown me is that he can handle the workload that we give him at the quarterback position, and he's got the mind for it.
Zach, staying on quarterbacks, do you have any 2 quarterback formations this year, or even a 3 quarterback formation with Jake?
You'll just have to wait and see. Yeah. Can't give out the secret information week 1.
Talked about it every week last year, it seemed like.
Yeah. Different year.
On the offensive lineman, specifically at guard, we've obviously talked a lot about Dennis, his move from center to guard, but Landon started 8 games there last year at that position. What has his recovery been like from his shoulder surgery, and what role do you expect him to play?
Yeah, it's been good. You know, with that shoulder being able to come back, he's looked good this camp. And again, he's been really good. He's kind of played both for us. He's been playing some interior for us, as well as a little bit of tackle. And the other thing people maybe not know about Landon either is he's actually a really good center, and so he can snap as well. So he's really a jack of all trades when it comes there. He can play all 5. But he's had a really good camp, and we're fired up to see kind of, you know, how he keeps progressing. And again, I feel good. If he's got to go in the game, we feel fired up about Landon that he's back, and he can give us what we need.
All right, that'll conclude today's press conference. Thank you.